everybody, welcome to the Outer Rim Rookie, a beginner's journey to joining the 501st and Rebel Legion. I'm Rob Williams, and I'm here with
Jamie Pale Rider.
All right, so Jamie decided to join me on this little trip, and as you can see, we also have a guest on the show. This is an old friend of the show from the Star Wars Commonwealth days. It is Rob Cast. Say hello, Rob.
Hi, everybody.
I've got Rob Cast here on the show to talk about droid building. Now, you know that me and Jamie are both members of the 501st and Rebel Legion, Outer Rim Garrison, Falcon Base, but Rob here is a member of the Droid Builders way out in Toronto. Is it Toronto? Whereabouts exactly are you from?
Yeah, I live 4 hours north of Toronto. So
do you?
Anybody listening that's like, okay, just the Arctic, maybe. but yeah, I'm still with the boys out of we call it, the GTA, Greater Toronto area. So I'm still in that ilk. I'm the only, there's a BB-8 builder here in Sudbury, Ontario, where I am. And aside from him, I have the only R2 between Barrie, Ontario, just north of Toronto, and Thunder Bay.
Oh, you got the monopoly, sir.
Well, yeah. there's two members of parliament. There's two members of parliament here too. That's it. So it's not.
I'm always talking about how to get involved in the 501st or Rebel Legion, but Rob here is going to help us learn about how to get involved in the Droid Builders. And Rob, I want to know your connection first of all. What's your history with droids? Where did this passion come from?
Zero history. This is, and again, not to butter up the host, but we both entered the Commonwealth around the same time. I think it was like 2015, 2016 when we.
Oh my God, was that long ago?
Yeah, when we started chatting online, and we're of the, and again, everybody get their drinks ready. I saw the original Star Wars in a drive-in theater with my parents in 1977. So I turned 50 this year as well. So we're in that exact same orbit, right?
Yeah.
And you were starting the Outer Rim Rookie. And for me, I was like, I'm more of, I know it sounds weird, but I personally and home life, I'm more of an introvert, right? I love going to cons and I love the cosplays. I love the 501st, the Rebel Legion. They make it for me. I've been to the last 4 celebrations, including the one in London here. And if it wasn't for them, it would look like a bunch of tourists walking around. So, but for me, I'm just putting on armor is not for me. And I was like, I love it, but I don't know if I'm that person. And then I saw somebody I went to a con down south in Southern Ontario. I met my first R2 face to face, and I'm like, I don't know. I asked a lot of questions, and he's like, of course, I'm sure you guys do with the 501st. I want to start doing that. I want to this or that. And it's almost like I refer to droid building as like gym memberships. There's a lot of people that started. Not a lot of people have the muscle to show for it, right? So
have you been talking to my gym lately?
Yeah. Yeah, they've called. Your payments are still coming out. So I was like, maybe that's for me then. Maybe that, and I talked to my wife because again, I knew it wasn't going to be an overnight. I'll do it one weekend and then that'll be the end of it. I knew it was going to be just a passion project. And then I started my R2. I started with the dome, and I figured if I didn't get past the dome, I'd have something cool for the garage, something cool for the man cave.
Yeah.
Right? You mean? And then I just continued, and two and a half years later, they're never done. I'm sure you guys in your armor it's never done, but we get it, what we call presentable, where it's con ready. And then, but 2.5 years, you can crunch that down, but I'm a dad. I have a day job. I'm a husband. I got other interests and responsibilities. So, it's not, didn't take 2.5 years of 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, but that's where that started. So that's how I got into droid building. It was actually when I noticed, I was listening to the Generation X-Wing, and you guys started talking about your building armor, and a lot of things were very similar. You're like, when you get that piece of armor and you got to cut it, but man, if you mess it up, that's an expensive whoops. And it's how am I going to make it look right? Same thing when we get a piece in on, I got my dome and I'm like, oh, it's all laser cut, but I got to cut out the pie plates and all the stuff. And I'm like, I got to drill a hole to put that radar eye in. But if I'm wrong, like, it's just, you got to grit your teeth and do it. So watching you go through your rookie thing, and I think when I started finishing, get my droid presentable, and then you were just about done your scout trooper, and it was like it was almost like I was watching, you were kind of like this barometer of like, okay, I'm falling behind. Oh, wait, no, yeah. And then we kind of finished within a few months of each other. Like, not finished, but you understand what I mean.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I can't imagine some of the errors that you make that are unfixable when it comes to working with metal or aluminum or whatever the metal may be. I know, Jamie, you're working on armor right now, and you're still going through, like, you've been a member for a long time. Do you still have those kind of hesitations when cutting or building?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was building another Stormtrooper or Biker Scout, probably not. Mm-hmm. But you don't build the same costume over and over. You want to try something new and something different. And like, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable working with ABS now, but now I'm doing seamless joins instead of just cover strips. And that's a whole other beast. Mm-hmm. And it's also working with something that I'm less familiar with the shape on. So it's a lot more hesitation, a lot more like double and triple checking the source material, that kind of thing.
And the fascinations with the head of whatever character that fascinates you. There's a lot of helmet collectors, and it's funny you said, Rob, that you are focusing on the head of R2. And if you get that, if you just get that, that's going to be good enough to mount or something. But did it surprise you how big R2 was in real life? 100%. I always thought it was much smaller, at least up to my waist, and this sucker comes a lot higher.
Yeah, he's a big boy. Like I bought a wheelchair ramp to wheel him into my van. I have and I tell people look at him like, oh, is that actually 1-for-1? And I'm like, yeah, he's the real size. And I'm like, you remember there was a person in there.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's important to remember.
When you think of that, oh, he doesn't look so big anymore. You know, it's like, oh yeah, no, that's not this. But yeah, he is. It's weird. I have a daughter that's 6 now, so R2 has been running around our house for her living memory. And it's just normal for her to have. It's like, you don't live with R2? Well, okay, whatever.
It's a family dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I want to ask you, first of all, where do you start if you want to become a droid builder, you want to start building your own R2? Where do you get things like the specs and the information and the metal and all that sort of stuff?
Okay. Well, there's a few things right off the bat. These are the questions I get every con.
Yeah, that's why I thought I'd start with those questions.
No problem.
Besides the question of how much did it cost? That's always the first question I get.
That's always the question. Yeah. And then there's a stories that go with that. But I am a drywall finisher. That means a plaster guy. I'm a taper. I'm in the low rung of the construction industry, right? When it comes to, I don't got a whole lot of measuring to do. I just got to make things. I got to make drywall paintable. That's my job, right? So it's not I'm not an engineer. I went to a public high school here in Ontario, and I'm not poo-pooing our public high schools. I'm just saying I did not go on to Queen's University and get an engineering degree in electrical. So basically what I'm saying is if I can do it, anybody can do it. The bar is low, just patience and time. You go to astromech.net. That is the Astromech Builders Club. You sign up. Usually takes a couple days for the administrators to get back to you. And then there's no money, there's no pyramid scheme. But it just takes a couple days for them to, I guess they sit down at their computer once a week or whatever. You get in, and then there's a section right at the top, new builders, go here. First thing they say, nobody's selling their droids. It is not Disney and Lucasfilm are nice. They love having, like you guys, the 501st. They love having our droids at all the movie premieres and all the conventions and all the other stuff. But they wouldn't like it so much if you were selling their intellectual property.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, and it's theirs, rightfully so. Like, I didn't spend $4 billion to buy Lucasfilm. So basically, nobody sells their droids. Now, there's exceptions, of course. Let's say if I got terminally ill, and then I would go to the club and then be like, you know what? Rob Williams is looking to buy a droid and this and that. It just, then we would, there's ways around that, but at the same time, nobody profits off these things. There's no kit. If there's no, okay, where do I buy the pieces? No, you can, the Droid Builders Club is, let's say if you were a machinist and you were an aluminum machinist and you made the radar eye, you would make it, you'd send it into the club to get approved, because it has to be exactly the spec. And then they say, once they approve you, then you can sell it to other club members. And there's two R2s. There's the CSL and the CSR. One's their legacy, one's the new one, the remastered version, I guess. Because before, they used to take measurements off the TV screen and the movie theaters. And then once we got our hands on an actual Lucasfilm droid, then we got the actual measurements. So you can go both ways, whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah, so basically that's it. And there's, where do you start? Research. How do you want to do it? I had no idea. How am I going to make this thing roll around? Again, I'm not an electronics guy. I'm a tradesman, so I can be handy, but how am I making them? You can 3D print them. My droid started out being a complete Frankenstein. It had aluminum parts when I could afford them because they're expensive. He has aluminum skins, wooden frame, resin foot shells, 3D printed parts on the leg, greebles and everything else. And he's a mishmash. He's RC, but at the same thing, I got MP3 triggers and everything else. Nobody's droid is, they all look the same, but on the inside, everybody's built them differently.
Right. So where do you get things like metal?
So what do you like? Let's just say,
like for a metal dome or metal for the casing or anything like that. I forget. Like, I don't buy a lot of metal. Is it something as simple as a Home Depot, or is it more specialized shops that sell? I don't know.
For some things, for the dome, I bought mine. There's a Granite Earth sells them, and they're part of the Astromech Builders Club. So you go online and you go under aluminum parts if you want to go aluminum. You look under dome, send you the link, boom, takes you to this guy, and they send you basically a aluminum circle cut in half and tiny, and the pie plates are kind of lasered out, but you still got to file them. So there's your dome, but it's basically raw stock. Gotcha. It's like, I've heard you guys when you get your armor, you got to cut everything out. You can't there's the mold, but you're not even close to being done. Like, it's just, that's the starter.
Gotcha.
So, but that dome was approved, right? And then another guy will sell another piece. You could literally 3D print an entire droid if you wanted to.
Have you found that 3D printing has really changed the game since you started?
Yes, it's lowered the bar to entry.
Like, you and me talked about starting this in about 2015, 16, and I've just within that 5, 6, 7 year gap, it is exploded. Like, now people are buying their own 3D printers and just making all the greeblies that they need to make. Those little greeblies being those little parts and doodads that you need to make for it. And even whole helmets and body armor. I mean, Steve 3, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, Steve 3 made his was it Commander Creel costume with a lot of 3D parts, and he was actually working on a Crosshair helmet too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's gotten big into the 3D printing game. Like, if you can, I feel like it's a bit of a barrier for entry if you're not familiar with like the modeling or setting it up. But yeah, once you get across that, it seems like the sky's the limit from there.
Yeah, the one. Oh, sorry, Rob. The one thing about 3D printing, it's not a plug and play thing. It's not like our old that matrix printers where you just plug it in your Commodore 64 and away it goes. You got to fine tune it. It's a real hobby in its own. But my Droid, I had a lot of 3D printed parts on them, but I would be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to order aluminum power couplers for the front of my R2D2. I order the aluminum ones and then I swap them out, because if I printed the CRS power couplers and I order the aluminum ones, they're going to be interchangeable. Mm-hmm. So my Droid is slowly being upgraded, where he's basically all the greebles on the body and the dome, the hollow projectors, I think they're all aluminum now. And I got some greebles to swap out on the legs. So you can start and then upgrade your Droid eventually. You mean, like, I'm sure with your armor, you can you can start if you might have your weapon a certain way, and then, oh, you know what, I'm going to upgrade the weapon. I'm going to put some aluminum on the scope. I'm going to weather it a little bit more. Because with steel you can weather it way easier than you can with a 3D printed. You can actually literally scuff up a piece of metal. When 3D printing, you got to kind of dirty it to get that effect. So, yeah, I think 3D printing it's lowered the bar for entry, but again, you don't have to be stuck with it. It's not like, you can, if you 3D print a dome, which is extremely difficult, but if you can get it done, and then eventually when you want to drop the money on aluminum dome, you always can.
So I've got a question regarding approval then. So you've spent all this time, you've connected with other members of the Droid Builders and double checked the pieces and stuff. What's the approval process like? What do you do?
There is none.
Oh, okay, because you were talking about how parts need to be approved.
The parts have to be approved.
So when you put all the parts together, though, and you built your R2, is there, in the 501st or Rebel Legion, we have to take a picture, submit it, and they say, all right, do this, or thumbs up, you're good, officially you're a member. What's that with Droid Builders?
We know you're pretty much, once you start, you're an Astromech member. It's kind of like, you can say you're in the Astromech Builders Club if you sign up tonight, but it's kind of like being an astronaut. Once you have your droid, you get the gold pin. Until then, you're wearing you're wearing figuratively wearing the silver one. It's like,
gotcha.
I've had that a lot too. When I'm like, oh, I'm building a droid, and everyone's like, yeah. Like, oh, you go to the gym too, eh? Oh, yeah. Where's your muscles?
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, but we do have a higher up approval. You can go to Lucasfilm now and get Disney approved, where now you are allowed to be on the list to get called in to do it can be in a movie shot, it can be in an official event. We still bring ours to like the movie premieres, but when it's official, you can get official Lucasfilm sanctioning that but there's a handful of them out there. The guys that did Force Awakens, they're Astromech builders. And it's like, let's have that R2. It's so we don't have that. I was at the Rise of Skywalker premiere, and there was a young lad who was a Hoth trooper, and we were discussing, and again, we got to go to the premiere and everything else. And so he's talking to me, he goes, oh, you Astromech guys are lucky. He goes, we have to get approval. We have to do this. We have a minimum amount of troops we got to do every year. And this is out of Toronto. And there's a lot of commitment, a lot of this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, we just built a robot in our garage. Right. Okay. Yeah. That's completely good. You're right. I'm so lucky. But again, yeah, we don't have a lot of restrictions. I've had people in town here saying, I always kind of have my thumb on the pulse of what's going on locally. And somebody from the 501st was mentioning that. I'm like, oh, that's just because I'm an Astromech builder. I don't have to go through the 501st channels. Like, if I go to Fan Expo, if I wanted to, I'd probably go under the Rebel Legion banner. I went to Niagara Falls Comic Con. I was under the 501st banner. I'm not a 501st member, but I did have my sign up sheet. So I had my speeder bike duty. I had my, I don't have armor, so I'm not going to be shot at the charity
Blast Trooper booth.
Blast Trooper booth, but I can collect your money, right? Like, so when I go to these things, I am a member of the Star Wars community, right? So whoever's supplying the exhibitioner's badge, that I'm there and I'm representing the Astronaut Builders group, and I have my R2 there. Like like I said, the last one in Niagara Falls, I was going through the 501st but again, like I said, I sign up for booth duties. I fall in line with whatever you guys are doing, but I also don't have the, you mean like I gotta get my mandatory troops in and like, oh, did you look online? Did you sign up for that?
Not the same protocol in certain ways. But I like the fact, I mean, I'm going to shine our boots a bit here on the left coast here. It's like with the Outer Rim Garrison, the Rebel Legion, Wasur Clan, and Saber Guild, we're all kind of a lovely family where it's not about you're in your position, you're in your position. We work together, and it's nice that we can work with people like the Titans, Garrison Titan down Washington, or Badlands out in Alberta and the rest in the central Canada. We have a nice little close-knit family here, and it sounds like that's kind of what's happening with yours as well.
Oh, 100%. We all, like the Rebel Legion, 501st, and the Droid Builders, we were all in the same chamber.
And now, a lot of us, like the friend of the show, Aaron Litch, he's a Droid Builder. He is a Rebel Legion member, and he's a 501st member, and maybe one day he'll do the other two, who knows. But it's just like, we're all kind of the same family because we're all in the same house. we're sharing, we're all brothers and sisters as it is. So
yeah, and we all have we have our racing tunics. You mean just mine looks like R2D2. You mean like we're all dare I say one big happy family. Like it's I wear, even when I go to celebrations, because I don't bring, being from Northern Ontario, I should have brought my R2 to Chicago because I could have driven there in like 8 hours. That was the closest one, but I don't bring my R2s to celebrations, but I wear my racing shirts.
Yeah.
You always get the nod, you know what I mean, when you're going, oh, hey.
Tip of the cap.
Yeah, exactly. You're you mean card carrying member or whatever, you know. And it's funny though, when I mentioned that I was more of an introvert person, as I ramble on a podcast being broadcast to everyone, I was like, armor's not for me. And the funny thing is, I was discussing with our local 501st guys, I'm like, it's kind of backfired on me, because now Sudbury's 100,000, 120,000 people. It doesn't take, and I grew up here, I moved back home, so a lot of people know me already. I'm the R2 guy, because whenever they see R2, I'm always like 10 feet away from my R2. Whether I'm hiding, trying to control them, or be a puppeteer, or people ask me questions. When you guys are in your armor, you guys walk out in your armor, you do your thing, and you go back, you take the armor off, and nobody knows. Nope. It's almost like it's like, for some reason, you put on the glasses, and Clark Kent is no longer Superman.
That was part of being a trooper. Yeah. Except people that I interacted with as a trooper, and then when I was out of costume, I would see them and smile at them, and I assume I just look like a creep because some stranger is smiling at them. But
yeah, you recognize them. They don't. Like, why is that guy smiling at me? We were in the booth just like 30 minutes ago. Don't you remember?
Obi-Wan is a different beast, though, for sure. Having my face out there.
Then you're known. Yeah, there's no getting away from it. Like you didn't have to mention who your Rebel Legion character was. It's kind of obvious.
Can't you tell? Mon Mothma right here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm working on my Crix Maydeen beard.
Or your callus. We'll just shave this part off and you keep the nice giant sideburns, right? Yeah. But I'm sorry, I'm gonna do this to you, Rob. Have you seen his Lobot, Jamie?
Oh God.
No.
Show me the Lobot. Dance monkey.
Okay, here we go. Hang on. Terrible, right?
Oh my God, you just got approved like that.
I know.
We get you the puffy shirt and the
yeah. Oh yeah, I went to high school in the 80s. I got a pirate shirt somewhere.
Gray pantsuit from mom or something. You're all set to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's so again, you mean that would have saved me 2.5 years of building and frustratingly build a droid if I just realized, oh, wait a second, I'm looking at a camera. Oh, I got headphones on. You know what if I hide that? Oh.
It's funny you mentioned introvert because I feel I'm very much an introvert myself. I mean, it's funny also that we're all podcasters here, YouTubers at times, and I do have a big trouble talking to people in general. This makes it easier, and I always steal that line from Oscar Wilde: "Give a man a mask, and he'll show you the truth." It's easier to cover your face. And Jamie, you've actually come out of your shell quite a bit, being open to the world. This is when we talked to Nick the Guy, talking about being seen and away from that mask. You're vulnerable, I'm assuming. So with you, Rob, you get to hide slightly in the back. And again, I've seen Aaron do this with the controller behind his back or something, just controlling, not being a part of the show, letting R2 do it. So what's that like? It's
one of those things you learn as you go. You know, I'm sure it's quite similar where it's like, yeah, you figured out how to build your armor. Do you know how to troop? You mean there is a different, again, it's anybody can do it if they put their mind to it, but it's like, for me, it's more of a puppeteer thing.
You're performing slightly.
Yes. Yeah. You're making R2 perform. I make him, I took him to the hospital on Star Wars Day this year. And there is a young lady walking down the hall, and she's turning her head slightly, looking at R2. And as R2's rolling along, R2's just kind of doing the same thing, looking back at her, and she just starts bursting laughing. Like you're very familiar with your R2. Like when you're driving him around, like it's like having your own. It's almost like if you built your own motorcycle. Only you would know how to ride it properly, right? Yeah. Puppeteering is really cool. It's a different. I'm still got lots of work to do, but it's just a different aspect of it. And it's having. When I see people troop, people know this person inside. They know. You know what I mean? It's like even when you go to the movies, I know that's Henry Cavill. That's not Superman. You know what I mean? But you suspend your disbelief. When you see R2 is a robot that rolls around, beeps and boops, and makes funny noises and turns his head and squeals. Well, that's what mine does. So it's almost people react where it's like at that same day at the hospital, there was a receptionist that came out. It was Star Wars Day. She had her Han Solo t-shirt on, and she buckled to her knees and almost went into tears. She was so happy that R2 was there, because it was like meeting R2. Because they can suspend their disbelief a little more, because R2 is a robot. And well, they just hugged a robot. So,
do you have any favorite stories?
Oh God, yeah. There's a few of them. There's one young lady at the reception. I remember taking R2 for his first maiden voyage out of the house, and I brought him. I was in Cambridge, Ontario. I brought him to the mall, and I brought him Sunday morning with all the mall walkers. So all the old people doing their laps. We have that a lot in Canada because you can't walk outside 12 months out of the year. So I brought them to the mall, and they're doing their laps, and the stores weren't open yet. And then I was passing by this hair salon, and I stayed after till the store started opening. And there was a young lady there. She was 20 years old if she was a day. The last person you'd expect to be a Star Wars fan. And she just put her hands on her mouth, and she was almost tearing up, and she's like, "Oh my God, I was gonna call in sick today, and R2D2's here." And she's shaking, and she could not wrap her head around the fact that R2 was there. And me, as somebody, I was mid-40s at the time, so to see someone that young appreciate it as much as probably I would, and to see that for them the illusion of, this guy built it in a garage literally down the road is just gone. Like, it's just to see people so emotional when they quite literally meet their childhood heroes. Like, it's neat. And to know that you didn't create him. I'm not George Lucas. We didn't write him. We didn't invent him, but to bring people that kind of joy. And again, I've got a million stories like that. I'm sure you guys too, where people can't wrap their heads around it, and those are really, really cool. On the other hand, I was at a con where something went wrong and the dome wouldn't stop spinning, and then I have a little slip ring inside, so that way the wires don't get tangled. So it's almost like the old phones from the 80s. They had that little slip ring where you wouldn't tangle your phone cord from the neon phones. So, but I'm like, oh wow, and then it wouldn't stop, and my RC wouldn't stop it, and there was some glitch somewhere, and I ran up to him and I just popped the dome off, and the kid starts screaming. It was like a guy ran up and just took R2's head and ripped it right off, and then just and yanked the wire out, like just like, what are you doing? And I forgot that I was like, oh yeah, there's a responsibility here that you have to remind yourself of. You can't go and take R2-D2's head off in front of a 6-year-old after he's been talking to the robot for 5 minutes, and then reach down into his torso and rip. You know, like
Kalima.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, you got to be careful. So there again.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
You recently had some actual Star Wars actors meet R2, didn't you?
Actors, yeah. Who met R2? The act. Oh shoot, it slipped my mind. Gus Fring from from He's on the Mandalorian.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah, it's him. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
He was funny. I wheeled him around. Again, this was just
he wrote it. He's sitting on the top.
Yeah, no. He was at his autograph booth, and there was nobody there, and I whipped around, and I got, of course, in my MP3 trigger, I got the R2 screen, where I pulled right up to his booth, and I made him kind of peel out and go backwards, and he was like, hey, but it was like not in character, and it was so funny to have that, like, it's like most of the actors act like they get it, and they slip right in like, oh, R2's afraid of this guy because he's the bad guy. You know what I mean? And yeah. I also have the coos and the oohs when they meet the good guys. Oh, you know what I mean? Like that.
R2's got some wonderful sounds of excitement or caring. It's
again part of the puppeteering thing, the whole thing. It's part of that. When there's a 6-year-old dressed up as Leia or Rey, and they get their picture with them, and I always tell them, I say my droid's a con droid. Go ahead and touch him. You're not gonna hurt him. Like he's like, it's just some people I understand will get no touch that, don't touch. If they start twisting the holo projectors and stuff, then yeah, of course. Like, but he's a con droid. He's meant to be. Go ahead, hug him, kiss him. I wouldn't after a long con weekend. You might get a little con crud on you, but you know, because there's a lot of 6-year-olds that have been hugging and kissing them all week. So you know, I mean, being a school teacher, you would know you get a lot of germs.
kids are looking like a glazed donut.
Yes.
Yeah. I was at a troop earlier in June, and R2 was there. It was at a school, and the kids were rough with R2. They were the holo projector thing. That looks like the little nose, if you want to say or layman's speak. But the little thing, they love twisting that and pulling the thing on the top and trying to spin it. You know. Yeah,
I have my restraining bolt. Actually, it's a magnet on it.
For the kids or for R2?
For R2.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't been able to get yet. But I got mine. I have an aluminum one. I have a 3D printed one. It's a magnet to the front because I put another magnet behind because obviously it's aluminum, it won't stick. So I got to have another magnet inside the body. And they can literally, when they pull it off, that's when I hit the screen button. So the kids think they just ripped his nipple off or something. I don't know what they're thinking. But and the parents laugh, and it's like, oh, and they go to try to put it back, and it's like, that's what it's there for. It's all part of. It's all part. The little.
You're a good droid, Dad. So.
Yeah. See, yeah, he's. I joke with my 2 daughters. That's their brother. You know what I mean? I don't know why I couldn't make a male, but I can make one in my garage. But then again, I don't know how R2 identifies.
You brought him into this world.
I did. I actually had somebody ask me a few weeks ago at a con, what does R2 identify as? What are R2's pronouns? And my answer, he hasn't decided yet. I don't know.
Beep and boop.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like it's you hear the weirdest things. I'm sure you guys do too. Like it's one of those. It's cool, but can be very weird.
Before we wrap it up here, just wanted to ask you about any other little droids that you built. Now, I've seen, like, we talk off and on Twitter and stuff, Twitter messaging, but I see also right next to you are some R5 droids.
Yes, I have. Well, there's a gentleman who does the 3D printing stuff, Mike Badley. I don't get any sponsorship kickbacks for mentioning him, but he is. I met him a couple times. He's a great guy. Go see his patron, and if you're into 3D printing, these ones here, I guess he based them off the Funko model. So they're about 8 inches tall. There's my chopper, right?
Oh, that's cute.
He is actually, he has 3 servos, 1 in the dome and 2 in the feet. And then I just hook up a little 5-volt rechargeable battery inside. The hard part is you got to have a remote control. So you got to hook up those servos to the remote control, and boom, you're zipping around a little tiny chopper. Same thing with my little R5, and this is one of our generation's favorite that Mike designed. It's the Maximilian Star Wars black hole crossover, where you have Maximilian dome, his nice big 80s shoulder pads, and is on an astromech body. So he's this one. I do bring my minis out whenever I'm at the 501st table, because when you have, we got the setup and everything else. I might have a couple out there so people can learn. Hey, look at these things, and people of our age you always get the, oh, dude, like they can't wrap their head around, like, it's like, yeah, this is an obvious thing, but it's like, it's sitting right here. It's really weird. Yeah. So yeah, I do those. As I upgrade I just replaced R2's frame and aluminum skins last winter. I stripped them right down. I swapped out. I've been slowly upgrading from 3D printed parts to aluminum parts, like I mentioned earlier. And now it's almost like taking a motorcycle and replacing every single part. Eventually you're going to have 2 motorcycles. Well, that's what's happening. So I have my beater. I have a halfway done beater R2. And then as my main guy gets all the love, I'm going to have it'll almost be like Vincent and Bob from the Black Hole. That's what it'll basically look like.
Now you're speaking my language, sir.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what again, those are just little side projects I do just to keep my basically interested.
Any plans to building an actual droid, like another replica droid?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm using my old skins and my old frame. I'm currently doing Ahsoka's. It's not an actual R7. That's a different kind of astromech, but they named it the R7. That's the one, the brown and green, or the off maroon and green. You'll see it in the Clone Wars. That's what I'm kind of working on now. So basically another exact, because I do have all the old parts from as I upgrade R2. And that one I'm working on with my daughter, who's 20 in a couple weeks. So I don't know if she's getting into it, but she came down to Niagara Falls with me, and she loves conventions and everything else. And I said, oh, here, I got you an exhibitor's badge, which, and I know, you don't got to wait in line in the morning to get in. You get to go in whenever you want. You get to leave whenever you want. And on they usually don't do this, but at that convention, for the autographs, it was like a speed pass.
Oh, wow.
And again, they don't do that at the bigger ones, because my experience with exhibitor passes, rightfully so, is you don't get to buy any of the exclusives. Yeah. Because that's for the people, the paying customer, and rightfully so.
Yep.
Because we get to go in there. We can, as soon as the doors open, we can be already at the booth. So if you're wearing an exhibitor badge, you don't get all the prime stuff. You have to actually buy a badge. You have to be the paying customer, right? So, and again, if you buy your booth, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But my daughter, who's 19, like I said, and she's walking around this convention, like it was almost, it looked like Wayne in when he got Alice Cooper backstage passes. He just couldn't, it was like giving somebody this, like, I got speed pass. I can get whatever. I can buy whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. I'm like, whoa. You have my credit card. You can't buy whatever. But yes, if you want to buy something, you can. There's no threat. If you want an autograph, she waited 4 hours to get Robert Englund's autograph at the last Fan Expo. So she knows the pain of waiting around. So her being able to walk right up and there's, whoever, Kane Hodder or her favorite horror person is like, yeah, there are perks to the job.
So, all right, last question for you. Besides R2, favorite droid?
Besides R2.
Besides R2.
Oh, R5.
R5D4?
Yeah.
So were you pretty excited? What was your feeling on him being in Mandalorian, playing such a big part?
Huge part. I think I messaged us in our Twitter group. I'm like, am I the only one that picked up on the R2 R4 reunion? Like when the Mando first landed, I think this was during, maybe it was the Book of Boba Fett or something. I think it was that little in episode Mando where all of a sudden R5 comes and they land at the mechanic's place there, and that's like R2's right there and R5 is right there. Like they yes, protocol droids get their minds wiped, but astromech droids, they barely do that. So there's history there.
Yeah.
And so I was so happy to see. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've literally had smoking parts out of my R2. Like I got a soft spot for, and who can't relate with bad motivation or bad motivation?
Well, you also hear that story of Skippy the Jedi droid, right?
Yes.
Like R5 sacrificed himself for the cause sort of idea. So yeah,
exactly.
Anyways, thank you, Rob, so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And Jamie, thank you for sticking by my side here and talking droid stuff. Where can we find you? And there's a special hashtag you want to share as well.
Yes. Okay. Well, you can find me. I am at Robert MMCast on Twitter and Instagram. Give me a follow or whatever. And I always, as long as you're a real person and you're not one of the MILFs next door or down the road, I usually follow back because
this is a problem, is it?
Yeah, you get a lot of bots, right?
Town.
Yeah, you get a lot of bots that go on there like, oh, guess what? There's in your community. Okay, whatever. I'm a very married man. So yeah, if you are a real person, I'll give you a follow back. And if you go to hashtag Rob's R2, please don't ruin it for me. Basically, I have a card I give out. It's basically a picture with the picture of the data disk.
Mm-hmm.
So if people want to pretend they're Leia going, help me when Obi-Wan Kenobi or my only hope, they can actually mimic that when they meet R2. And I usually tell people, hey, if you meet R2 and you want to post it, use the hashtag. Great, because then I get to follow his adventures. And there's been a few, local Canadian celebrities, and some of these. I have one up there with Stacy Mistison. She's Joey Jeremiah's girlfriend. Longtime girlfriend on Degrassi from junior high. Degrassi, we all know her. Again, she's our age. She runs out and gives R2 a big hug. Like I got a picture of her hugging R2 at one of the later conventions we had this year. So there's a lot of people you might not recognize if you're a little younger, or some of them you might have to Google the name. But it's like, oh wow, that's so cool.
I think it's cute. You think younger people are watching my show.
Well, another thing I do wanted to mention, Rob, I do appreciate this show and I appreciate what you guys do here. And I love the fact that you are a genuine Generation X wing. But you don't, I see so much online where like, well, Gen X, well, yeah, but we didn't have the internet. Well, we didn't have that. No, you don't. It's not, you don't chastise the millennials or anybody younger for not having what we didn't have. You guys celebrate what we did have, and you're basically letting other people know, even if a millennial does want to listen and they're like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay not to be born in the 70s. You know what I mean? It was pretty awesome. They missed out, but it's not, you don't lord it over people where it's like, we didn't have Google, we didn't have this, and we didn't have the internet. We had to phone home and we had to go to a payphone. Like, no, yeah, we reminisce and think it's all cool, but I love the fact that you guys are so open to it, and it's not.
In our early days, I think we did joke about it, but we've grown, we've matured.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're very welcoming. It's almost like educating.
It took us to get to 50 to mature.
Yeah, that tracks.
It's even questionable there.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Rob, for coming on the show. All the links that we talked about will be down below. Jamie is not online, but again, we'll put all the links. Jamie's nice and quiet in his little comfort space there, so he's all good. But you can hear me and Jamie on our Generation X-Wing podcast audio show. We have some shows here on YouTube that you can check out. Please please subscribe, help us grow, help us get to 400, help us get to 500, and I can make Jamie watch The Love Guru. That's a deal we had. So
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. So
Drama.
thanks for watching, and thanks again for Rob coming on the show, and we'll see you next time. Remember, armor and droids are built on hope. Bye.